Hello guys, this is Shining Noctowls, and tonight I am sharing a very personal video today. I want to see first if I can pull up the stream here. Just want to make sure I can answer your guys' comments if you guys have any. Let me load it here. So, I recently received my DNA results for this lifetime, just actually today. And there's a lot that I um, just really um, definitely a lot I've had to process. Most of it, um, or some of it, was actually just fine, really. I knew that, um, you know, at least in this lifetime, most of our my mom and dad's side of the family, before they lived in Cuba and Colombia, they actually, at least for my mother's father's side, they came from Spain or the Canary Islands, which at one point was a Spanish colony, and I also knew that from my father's side there was someone in the family that was Native American, which I definitely don't mind either, because I see myself simply as a Celtic spirit that was accepted into this land, this lifetime, and I do what I can to respect the first people and the Native Americans of this land because they have a lot of wisdom to share, and I think it's important to listen to them. I really do. So I definitely didn't mind that. Um, North African was also kind of interesting as well. I didn't really pay too much mind to it because I know there was a lot of actually exchange, at least in history, between the North Africans and the Spanish. North Africa being Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, if I'm pronouncing that right, and Egypt. Um, Nigeria, actually, I kind of laughed a wee bit because I have a fair amount of friends that are African Americans, and they always told me, you got a little bit of us in you. And I don't mind it really. I always thought it was kind of funny that they would say something like that. Uh, I mean, they do say a lot of us originally came from Africa very long ago. Scandinavia actually was interesting. However, I guess it makes sense because my father's first name is Sigifredo, but it really is just the Spanish version of Siegfried, which is German. And if you go further back, Siegfried is Sigurd, and so yeah, that makes sense actually. And I actually have a fair amount of friends from Scandinavia, or actually that have the Viking ancestry that I connected well with, and that they had good hearts indeed. I really do believe that. And then there's Greek and South Italian, 4.5%. I was actually pretty surprised about this, but not in a bad way though. I thought it was pretty neat. Just kind of, just seeing how, you know, close Italy and Greece are. Like, there were a lot of Greek colonists that, from what I heard about the Iberian Peninsula's history, that actually, um, settled in Spain, aside from the Celtic people that were already there and the Iberians. And there was a fusion, and also like the Italians or the Romans that came, you know. So that makes sense as well, why that's there. So the last one I really want to talk about, and this is kind of the really core focus of the video, is really England, because I've I've had I've had a long history, in my past lives, where whether it was in Ireland or whether it was in Scotland, I felt like that I had a long history where, you know, where our people were uh, suffered many casualties and many lives were lost from the invasions that happened in the Isles. And it brought great pain to the Irish and to the Scottish, or to myself in my past lives when I was in those lands. It really did. It really did. But my spiritual mother, Morrigan, she's still been there with me, and she's helped walk with me through this difficult time, or those difficult times, to really just learn how to heal and learn how to forgive and learn how to love freely. And I know a lot of the English today are not how, you know, how their ancestors were long ago. I know my last name, Vivas, actually. Apparently, there was a place in, I believe it is Wiltshire, or Wiltshire, rather, in southwest England, where the surname, Vivas or Vivish or Vivash actually existed, and it was of Norman origin, and essentially those Normans, they were originally Vikings, but they had moved into northern France, and I think the reason why I struggled with that kind of ancestry is I feel like it just it was very difficult for our people during those times. And I even remember my past life in Ireland, even with my own family, it was difficult. Uh, I was seen as an outcast for not being Catholic, and I paid the price with my life. And some may choose not to believe that, and that's, their decision to believe. But it was a very painful experience, but I eventually learned how to forgive my family uh, from Donegal, northwestern Ireland. To forgive them because we all make mistakes, we all do, and I know that all too well myself. And they told me, we're sorry if we pushed our beliefs too far on you. And there was a similar experience I had with someone in this lifetime that I loved and I still do love dearly. I do. And she was my wife in that past life in Ireland, and I met her again in this lifetime, even though she was in a different form. And I remember she was holding the broken wedding ring. Tears were streaming from her eyes in the vision I had of her. And when I saw that, I just shook my head, wiped her tears, kissed her on the forehead, because I could still see the good in her, despite the mistakes made, even my own. And I think when I was able to do that and to love her freely as a friend, it really brought a lot of release for both her and I. I really do believe that. And I I hope that she's doing better now. And her last name was Piper, and at the time I didn't think much of it. I didn't think about much of the last name Piper. But there was an Australian woman here in North Idaho, Scottish ancestry, and I remember I was with my mum and we were at the dining table and she said, you and I are connected. And I didn't understand what she was saying at first because I felt like my past life was only in Ireland, in Eire. But she said, no, we're connected. And then I told her, I don't know if I remember the Celtic language. And she said, yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. And so, and there was another woman in my life that had Scottish ancestry as well, Scottish and Native American, but Scottish she still was. And she also said, we're connected. And even though I didn't fully understand it at first. And now, Piper, it's another Scottish last name. And when I hear the bagpipes, the Celtic bagpipes, in northern Spain, it's called the gaita, actually, funnily enough. And I learned that the Scottish bagpipe may have actually come from the Galicians in northern Spain, which I find quite fascinating. They also say in the Book of Invasions how the northern Spanish may have actually migrated to the Isles. And some of the Irish and maybe even Scottish and Welsh we know of today were from those northern Spaniards. But nonetheless, when I listen to the Scottish bagpipes, to the pipers, it just speaks deeply to my heart, you know? And I feel it deeply, I do. And I know a lot of the Irish on the Isle today, when people in the YouTube comments saying, how can this they'll say stuff like or some people in America or elsewhere will say, how can this African person or uh, person with African ancestry or this uh, black person, how can they be considered Irish when I have 50 other blood clans and things like that? And the Irish on the Isle, some of them say, it's not about your birth certificates or your blood. It's who you are. And that's what I believe and what I believed in my past life long ago. My Celtic friends and I, whether we had dark hair, blonde hair, red hair, brown hair, or different skin tones, we all accepted one another for the good in our hearts despite mistakes made. Because back then we all looked a fair bit more different than we do now. But What united us was still seeing the good in our hearts and seeing the shared bond there. That's what kept us strong, you know. Uh, and so when I listen to people, for example, Bruce Fumi in Scotland, and of course Sean, you know, as well. I love listening to Sean. He actually has a lot of good videos touring the Americas. Quite fascinating indeed. Um, but Bruce, you know, you know, he would say in his videos, you know, what does it take to be Scottish? You know, because his father, you know, is Ghanaian from Africa, and his mum is Scottish, from Scotland. Even though he wasn't too happy to find when his one of his nannies or grandmothers was English. Uh, but he said, you know, what makes you Scottish is deep down in your heart. And he would play you know, some of the musical themes and rugby matches and whatnots. And, you know, he would say, if this speaks to you, it probably means you're Scottish. And so for me, I feel like being Celtic to me is more than just being Irish, it's more than just being Scottish, it's more than being Welsh. And I guess even more than being English, as some would want to say, because there are, you know, some Celtic languages still spoken in England, such as Cornish. And I always think, you know, had it not been for the English during the Second World War and Churchill and the English men and women who were fighting against the Germans, the rest of the Isles would have probably fallen into German rule. I believe we had the better alternative, even though some may have their own thoughts about that. However, I feel like that your heart, like for example, my Celtic heart, for example, from Ireland, it has nothing to do with blood. It's just, you know, my spiritual mother, Morrigan, she's still been there for me even after all these centuries later, and I truly believe that. And I know some people are going to have their own thoughts, and that's fine. You know, you're more than allowed to have your thoughts, but she she's just been been there for me. And it's something that I guess I've never truly forgotten deep down, or at least she wouldn't let me forget. She wouldn't let me forget. Maybe that's what it is. Kind of like the Australian Scottish woman, you know, she would not let me forget. She would not let me forget. And after all, they say the Irish never forget. And I think it's important to remember. I think what's beautiful is that when the Choctaw or the first Choctaw Nation or some of the first people, when they were willing to help my spiritual brother in Eire during the potato famine, even though it was long after my lifetime, you know, back then, the 1300s, we didn't have potatoes. We just had cabbage, bread, butter, meat if we were lucky, or fish if we were lucky, and meat, and that was pretty much it. potatoes weren't really introduced, I learned, until the late 1500s, and they were introduced from America. And I've heard from some that they said that some of the Irish, believed for a wee bit that the potatoes were poisonous, so they wouldn't eat it. But I guess eventually they found out how to eat it one way or another, or find out that it was edible indeed. And but yeah, I just remember, you know, seeing the video of the Irish back on the isle giving to the first people. And when the first people were the Navajo and Hopi were saying, why are you helping us? My people were my brothers and sisters back on the isle, my spiritual brothers and sisters. They said, you helped us when no one else would. And they raised $5 million for the Navajo and Hopi people. And it was just such a beautiful sight to see indeed. To remember what matters. And it's something I keep in my heart as well because honoring the first people, or the Native Americans, is also honoring the Irish, my spiritual brothers back on the Isle as well. And so that's why I think it's important to really just respect and be grateful. Be grateful for the refuge been given. I've been given here. And I don't take it for granted. And I hope in time, other people who live in the Americas, can see that as well and not take it for granted either. And I felt like there was a reason why I was born off of Aedra this lifetime, off of Ireland. It was probably so that I could heal from the trauma of the past, and it was a painful past, it was, but I think my mother, my spiritual mother Morrigan, she wanted me to heal. She wanted me to heal and to have a fresh start, new beginning. And that's not to say that, you know, I'd love to revisit Aedra again. Actually, my dad and his wife, are thinking of maybe going there next year, and I might be going with them. And I had already been to London a few years back, and fortunately, this lifetime, no spears or any of that were pointed at me. Just simply, just a place to go and relax for a wee bit, and a wee bit depressing over there, really. But at least they had, a pretty good deals on ham and cheese quiche, marked down by 90% indeed. So, and I've met a few English friends, indeed, that have good hearts. They have good hearts, and I really do believe that. And I believe it's important to heal with them. And I believe maybe that's why this lifetime I was born with English ancestry to really, or at least blood ancestry, to really heal, heal, heal with the English, heal with the people that were once our enemies, to heal with them and to see the good there, to no longer hold the grudges. And I think it's important because I have a friend that, she's Welsh, but she lives in England. And she told me when she was younger, I don't know if it was the IRA or, or what was it, but she just remembers, one day there may have been some people from Ireland the Isle, that came over there and started smashing windows and whatnot, and they just were filled with hate. Hate with, still holding grudges towards what happened in the past, and it's sad. It really is sad. And I wouldn't want her or any of my other friends that live in England that have good hearts, or even in Wales if it happens there too, to happen again. It's not needed. It's not needed, especially not now. And I see what's still happening in Northern Eire, in Northern Ireland, and how, back then, back in the 1300s, we didn't have Protestants back then. It was just Catholics, or you were seen as an outcast. Generally as a heretic or, pagan or witch or what have you. But even now, even with, you know, even within the same, even within the umbrella of Christianity, you have brothers and sisters, fighting one another, throwing explosives, through the wall, dividing Eire or the Republic of Eire and Northern Eire. And it's sad. It's sad to see that. It's sad that there's still that hatred. It's not needed. It's not needed. Especially not now. I think we're long past that at this point. And we have to heal. We have to heal. We have to heal and understand we all make mistakes, including ourselves. We're not perfect either. None of us are. And I think if we can acknowledge that, if we can acknowledge what we can work on together and what keeps us connected rather than divided, I think that's important. I think that's why, connecting with Scotland, connecting with Wales. I have a friend named Ben. His mum's Welsh actually. And I remember when I was in the car with them, I remember I said, "Are you guys Walish?" And she said, "We're not Walish, we're Welsh." With a crisp tone to it. And they they always had very deep hearts. When I would come over to their house, and my friend Ben, he's a great chef actually. He used to talk about opening a bed and breakfast, a wee while back. And he would make some of the best, you know, shish kebabs with green peppers and onions and all these delicious meals. He did that. He did that. And I remember, one time when I was cutting away a lot of my connections and a lot of my friendships, Ben, he told me, uh, that, Jem, we've been friends for such a long time, and I wouldn't want to see our connection drift apart after all these years of building it. And in that moment, it showed me how deep his heart was, and how he really valued, you know, valued my heart. And so that's why I feel like it's better better to stay connected, especially if those who care about you. I really do believe that. Whether it was Morgan, who's still walking with me, Ben, uh, even still loving Catherine freely, and Crystal, you know. She was my sister in a past life, and I believe that. She was the one who saw what happened. She saw my life pass in the chapel, even though she didn't want to see that. She didn't. But she's still part of my family. I really do believe that. And it's not it doesn't really have to do anything with blood. It just has to do with your heart. And I know she tried to tell me that. She did. And you know, yeah, no, I think it's important to remember the people even centuries later that are still part of your family, your soul family, you know, part of still there. Yeah. And she is a strong woman deep down, and I believe she will find her way. I believe in her as I was once her brother. I believe in her. I believe in her. And I hope eventually she will learn to believe in herself, you know, that she will find her strength as a woman, as a strong woman, strong Celtic warrioress. Yeah, that she can remember. Oh, and same as Catherine as well, that I hope she can still see the beautiful red hair, green-eyed, beautiful woman still inside of her, and even more so, her beautiful spirit. That's what really matters. Yeah. And so I've learned as I continue walking on my journey, as I continue walking with my spiritual mother Morrigan, as well as learning about Carnunos, I've learned that we really are more connected than we think, more interconnected. And it's important to remember those connections that keep us strong and help us become stronger and kinder. And again, I even had a friend from Wales. She called me one of her brethren. And it spoke deeply to me as well. And so that's why I felt like I've had to really heal with the Isles. Yeah, really heal with them. The people there, or the people still with that ancestry or that spirit, to heal from those wounds, to heal from those wounds. And to come together, stronger, as the tribes come together. Yeah. But that's part of the journey. It's part of our journey. At least it's part of my journey. But it's shared. It's not something that you just have to take alone. And I've learned that, with a lot of the friends I've made that are still there, to still remember the journey. We walked the journey together. Even if it may seem like a solitary path, it really is more of a path of interconnectedness, almost like holding hands together, like how some of the pagans still do in Eire, and I'm sure in other parts of the Isles, and maybe even abroad. My cat's just kind of stretched right now. It's kind of like a little bunny rabbit. But yeah, I think it's a message I wanted to share. I think it was important to share. And I think that I just hope in time that, I can see the day where the hatred between our people that once plagued us on the Isles can be cleansed with the healing rain, and eventually the rainbow just shining on us once more, and the sun, the healing sun, bringing us together, bringing us together. Yeah, that's a day I'd like to see indeed. To, of course, still respect our individualities still. I think it's beautiful, after all, to have the singing voices of the Welsh and the grateful hearts of the Irish and the proud hearts of the Scottish, and even the builder of bridges of the English, even. After all, if English wasn't a bridge language, we probably wouldn't have been able to bridge with as many cultures that we have had today. Even though I still believe that once you build that bridge, it's good to then learn about one another's own roots and really go from there. Even learn their own, each other's own different languages too. After all, Welsh and Irish and Scottish are all beautiful languages in their own right. Whether it's hello, how are you in Welsh, Shemai, Sit UT, or in Irish, Morgwich, Conas Statu, or in Scottish, Gaelic, Kimdahau. They're all beautiful too. And I think it's important to remember, to not forget the beauty in those languages too. And so, yeah. This has been a very deep video for me. Deeper than probably than any video I've done in a very long time, but I felt like I needed to do it. I felt like it had to be done, and I hope that for whoever listens or hears this video, that it touches your heart and that you can just really resonate with it and that it can speak with you, can heal you, bring us together. Anyways, I think that's the end of the video. Hope you take care. Slongafold. Slongafold.